Speedcubing, and today we will be interviewing Mr. Paul Martz, who wrote the book Solve It and is the only speed solving guide for blind cubers. So my first question for him is going to be, how did you get started with cubing?
Great question, Truman, and thanks for having me as your guest. I started out with a Rubik's Cube back when I had all of my eyesight. I was 17 years old when the Rubik's Cube first came out. It was 1980, and I loved puzzles when I was that age. So I bought the first one that I found. Here's the deal though. The trick then was just, could you solve it at all, right? No one was doing speed solving yet. There was no guides, there was no internet. So me and my friends compared notes and we figured out how to solve it. That was the start of it for me. I didn't get started in speed solving until I was much older.
What does solving a Rubik's Cube feel like without sight?
Well, it's tough because when you're solving with your eyesight, you can keep your hands in home grip, right? Yep, when you're doing your algorithms and stuff and you don't have to move your fingers very much, I have to move my fingers all the time to figure out where the different pieces are. So that slows me down a lot. But other than that, I'm doing the same thing you are, right? I'm doing a cross, F2L, OLL, PLL, right? And I know the same algorithms you do too. It just takes me longer to find those pieces with my fingers.
How do you memorize the cube before solving it?
That's a good question, right? During inspection, I got to figure out, I'm pretty much focused on the cross. Maybe you're doing setup for your first F2L pair. Do you during inspection?
Yes.
Yeah, I only do the cross. And I only do one side too. I'm always going to start with the white side, which for me is the flat side on my cube. So yeah, I just try to figure out where those 4 edge pieces are that are flat and try to figure out the moves. And then I got to slap my hands down on that G5 timer and start it, right? Because the 15 seconds goes by awfully fast.
What method do you use to solve it blind?
Pretty much the same method as anybody else does. I've written a book. Here's the cover, and it's got a couple of different solutions. One is a beginner method that's layer by layer, and the algorithms, there's only a few of them, and they're pretty easy to memorize, but it's not going to be good for speed cubing. And so in part 2 of the book, it goes on and it talks about CFOP. So we talk about the 4 steps: cross, F2L, OLL, and PLL. And then it refers back to, the book has a companion website as well, because there's a whole bunch of algorithms in F2L, PLL, OLL, and all of those are on the book's companion website.
Cool. Do you use a special cube or any modifications?
Yes, it definitely use a special cube because I can't see the colors, so I've got to have tactile markings. So on this cube right here, for example, these tactile markings were made with a 3D printer and super glued on. The white side doesn't have anything, the yellow side has plus signs, and then I've got open circles opposite filled circles, and I've got filled squares opposite open squares. And then there's a new company that started. They're called texturecube.com. So they actually start with a quality like a Moyu or GAN cube, and then they apply textures. This is like a Velcro here and felt with holes in it, bubbles, and it feels much better. Here, you try it. Tell me what you think.
This is really cool.
That's great. And is that a Moyu or a GAN? Can you tell?
Seems like a Moyu to me.
Okay, you can set that down when you're done with it. And the other accommodation I need is the timer. The G5 timer is not accessible. There's a green light that comes on when it starts, so I have to have a judge announce that. And then I can't read the LCD screen either. So when I'm practicing at home, I use a stopwatch app on my cell phone, and it reads it into my earbuds out loud, which is pretty neat. But when I'm preparing for a comp, I got to practice with the, oops, something fell.
It was his fault.
Got to practice with the G5.
What's your fastest time and how did that moment feel?
So you know there's two fastest times, right? There's your PR in competition when the judge is breathing down your neck, and then there's your personal best you can do at home. So my PR is not great, it's a minute 39, but my personal best I'm pretty proud of. I'm a minute 2.51, so I'm almost under a minute, and I know I can get there if I just keep practicing and trying.
Nice.
So you're averaging like around 11, is that right?
Yes.
But what's your PR in comp?
7.4.
7.4, that's it. And have you beat it at home just playing around?
Yes.
What's your fastest PB?
Or a scramble that I got from like one of my friends before. I got a 3.9 on it.
No way.
And on a scramble for CS timer, I've gotten a couple sixes here and there. So,
That's outstanding, good work.
what's been your biggest challenge in cubing?
I'll tell you exactly what it is. You can go out to the internet or you can buy a guidebook, and they all contain videos and images and diagrams that show you how to solve the cube. And that has been a real challenge with me because I can't see those videos and I can't look at those images. If I listen to a video, I'll hear, well, you just turn this from here over to here over to here, and you turn it like that and that, you're done, right? And that doesn't do me any good. So my biggest challenge has been trying to figure out how to speed cube when I can't access that information. And that was what led me to start making my own text notes that I could read with screen reading software on my computer or phone. And eventually those notes grew into this book. So this book is 100% text that blind people can read with screen reading software or a braille display. And I hope it opens up speed cubing to a whole new community of blind cubers.
How do people usually react when they see you solve?
Good question. I can't really see their reaction. But at the last competition we were there together. It was Longmont Open, and I had a sighted assistant helping me navigate around the place. And as I sat down at the solving station, he told me, "You're drawing a crowd." So I assume that people find it interesting to see a blind person solve because they haven't seen before, and I hope that they're rooting me on.
How many textured cubes do you have, and what type of textured cubes are there?
I've lost track. I used to have so many Rubik's Cubes, and when the book came out, I gave a bunch of them away to encourage people to get involved in cubing. And then I just got these texture cubes in the mail yesterday, so I think I'm back up to about 7 or 8 regular. And then I've got a 2x2. I made this myself just by putting different shape stickers on it, right? Textured stickers. And then I've got this Pyramix. This Pyramix Junior made this. Check that out. That's great. I love the Pyramix.
Oh wow.
And then just recently I've got a tactile clock puzzle that was a friend made with a 3D printer. And I don't think that I can use this in comp because when the buttons are a certain way, you can actually rotate the faces by touch. So I'm going to have to work with the judges and get an exception to be able to use the clock puzzle.
There you go. Use a Pyramix.
Pyramix, thank you. But, and I'm slow with the clock anyway. It's going to take me a while before I can get better. I can't do 7 simul yet. Do you compete with clock?
Yes.
What are you using for your method?
I have no idea, honestly.
Okay. Do you see how some of those clock dials move by themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would need judges to sit there and watch and make sure that I'm not using that to my advantage. But I think that they could make an exception. I think everybody in the Colorado cubing community has been very supportive of me competing. And so they're willing to make any accommodations necessary.
What advice would you give someone who thinks they can't do something?
Yeah. You'd be surprised. You might be able to do more than you think. And if you look around, I bet there's somebody else in your same situation who's trying to do the same thing you are. Use the internet, make connections, find friends, and find a way to tackle those problems.
What's your next big goal as a cuber?
I want to compete in more puzzles. Right now I have competition scores for the 3x3, 2x2, and pyramids. I want to add 4x4 and clock if possible, and Scube. I want to have Scube too. I want to compete in 6 events. That's my goal.
I want to compete in more events too.
Yeah, you compete in a ton of them. Well, thanks for letting me talk about my book in this video. So it's on sale now. You can get it. If you just do a web search for Solve It by Paul Martz, it'll take you to a lot of different search results. So Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Smashwords, Kobo. It's pretty much available everywhere. It's an EPUB so that blind people can read it with a screen reader and a braille display, and it teaches you everything you need to know, how to get a tactile cube, how to start solving it just from the very beginning, how to go to your first competition, how to disassemble and reassemble and clean and lubricate your cube. It's all included, and I think it's going to open up the world to a lot of new blind cubers. So have you been doing this for 2 years? Is this right?
Yes.
And have you been tracking how many competitions you've gone to?
Yes.
Total?
42.
Yeah,
I've gone to 3, so just in the past year. So I'm just getting started. Look out, world! I'm going to get faster.
you know, maybe Worlds in 2 years from now, maybe we'll see you there with us, you know, competing.
Dream on.
Yeah. That's what's your favorite event? You said 2x2, sorry.
I do love the 2x2, yeah, but I love the 3x3 also. The last time I competed in 3x3, I did not set any records. It was a bad day for 3x3, but I did really well in 2x2 and pyramids.
Do you think more companies might start, you know, if this market grows and expands and there's more blind people getting in, do you think that one of the, you know, the big Speedcube shops or something like that in our country might start selling these types of cubes?
I would love it. I'm thrilled to death that texturecube.com is now, you know, making quality speed cubes. So this is one-stop shopping, right? It's your quality speed cube and it's got tactile markings. There's no buy it and then modify it yourself. I've talked with Speedcube Shop about possibly making something like a 3D printed tactile markings that they would super glue, and they're not ready to do that yet because, you know, it's a lot of labor and they're trying to figure out a way to do it cost effective. I haven't reached out to the cubicle. I'd love to see them do this. I know there's a place in Germany that does it, but they don't do international shipping.
Gotcha. Now, you're involved with a lot of, you know, online communities for blind people and stuff like that. Have you come across any people in those communities that are interested and that want to learn how to solve a cube?
Yes, definitely. There is a website, audiogamers.net. Shout out to my friends at Audio Gamers. These are mostly blind people playing audio-based games instead of video games, right? That's the name, Audio Gamers instead of video gamers. And in the off-topic forum, we've been talking about tactile cubing as blind people. There's also an online forum called AppleViz, which is for blind users of Apple products. And a lot of people there are very interested in gaming. And there's been quite a bit of discussion there about the book and how you would solve a Rubik's Cube blind.
I don't remember if we talked about this, but you knew how to solve a cube when you could see.
Right.
And how long did it take you to relearn how to do it once you couldn't?
As my eyesight was getting really, really bad, right, I could still see some images on the screen if I blew it up really large on my computer. So it didn't really take me too long to fill in the holes of algorithms that I've forgotten and kind of refresh my memory.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would sit down and make text-based notes in my computer that I could read with a screen reader that made it a lot easier for me. So I would say no, it didn't really take me that long to learn how to do it again. The challenge has been learning how to do it fast. And that's something I've been working on for about 1.5 years now. How do you speed cube? This was kind of a new thing for me. And so there, I've been working on it 1.5 years and I'm still not under a minute, if that tells you anything.
Gotcha. How much time do you think you practice trying to get faster?
Probably nowhere near as much as Truman does, and nowhere near as much as I should. And that's because I'm a grown adult with a life. I'm married and I'm a writer and I'm a musician and I have friends that I need to go out for coffee with. I mean, you have school too. I'm sure you have a lot of obligations. I know you're good at swimming lessons, right? But I bet every free minute, how much time do you spend a day solving a cube?
Maybe an hour, 2 hours.
And how many solves do you get in a couple of hours?
Not that, depends on the cube. So,
Uh-huh.
2x2 I could probably get like a couple hundred.
Yeah?
3x3 not as many, like maybe 100, but
Mm-hmm. If
For
I
additions,
solve the
that's
cube 12 times in a day, I feel like I've done a lot. So, and I need to do more. I really do.
That makes sense. I can attest. I learned how to solve a cube so I could teach him because he wanted to learn just a regular 3x3.
No way. Is that how you guys got started?
yes.
That's cool.
I learned in March 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and then it took a couple months to teach him. And by May, he finally figured out just using beginner's method. Within about 10 minutes, he was already minutes faster than I was. And then within an hour or so, he was already getting like sub 2 minutes and whatnot. And we told him since he learned how to do it, we would go ahead and find a competition. We didn't even know there were competitions or whatever, but we tried to encourage it, and so we found competitions, an hour up the street from where we lived and got him in. And then we realized it's like a whole community and how welcoming and accepting they are.
An amazing community. Let me ask you this, Truman. So were you 7 when you started?
Yes.
Or were you 6?
Also,
7. And how old would you say is too young, right? Would 6 be too young for somebody to start?
definitely not.
Really? Do you know people
think-
that are younger than you
Yes.
that cube?
We've met a few maybe at comps that are younger than him. He's 9 now, and but back then when we first started, I would say for about the first year we didn't encounter anyone younger than him. But just my guess. There might have been one kid that was around his age. There were a few that I definitely thought were younger than him, but turns out they were a couple years older, But yeah, let's see here.
That's great.
Yeah. What are the burning questions you get asked on your podcasts?
Crazy stuff. I think we've hit all the highlights.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were you going to ask, Drew?
What about your other science fiction books?
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. So yeah, and this kind of goes back to losing my eyesight. I was a computer programmer for 30 years. And when my eyesight started to get bad, I found that programming computers was a lot more difficult and I could not keep up with my sighted associates. So I retired early. And then I said, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And as a kid, I used to love science fiction, and I loved reading science fiction and writing science fiction. And so I decided I'm going to take on writing science fiction as a second career. So I started writing science fiction. I've joined a couple of local writing groups, and I've been writing primarily short stories when I'm not writing things like my cube book, right? So I'll write stories about people that are colonizing other planets, and you know how you can 3D print tactile markings? Well, in the future, you can 3D print an entire person because maybe they get killed by a monster or something. So that's one of my stories. And then I've got another story where some people have decided that they can create beautiful calligraphy with really black, smooth ink. And if they do it really just get everything just right and perfect, it can bring something to life. So if they write spin on the side of a top and start it spinning, it'll spin forever. So I have a story like that as well. And in the Amazing Stories anthology that just came out, Best of 24. I have a story in that book which is about AIs in the future. We recognize that they're sentient beings like us, so we decided we can't turn them off. So when they get old and obsolete, they have to go to an old folks home for AIs. So that's that story.
That's awesome. Let's talk about the website, your website.
Thank you.
And,
Yep. You can follow everything that I do as a writer at paulmartz.com. My book has a companion site, which just like the book, all the information's 100% text, fully accessible for blind people. That is tactilecuber.com. I'm also at TactileCuber on YouTube, but I don't have any videos yet, but hopefully that's going to change soon. And my friend who makes the texture cubes, that company is texturecube.com. So there's a whole bunch of websites for you.
Perfect.
Bye guys, hope you all had a fun time with this video, and thank you to Paul for letting us be here today. And don't forget to visit his website. So, bye.
And like and subscribe to True Cubing on YouTube.